Meanwhile, Chicago police say a growing feud between rival gangs led to a mass shooting on Tuesday. Police say tension fueled by a high-ranking gang member who was released from federal prison in March, then recently arrested and re-released for a felony weapons charge.
Yeah, for more details, let's go to our national correspondent, Mike Carter. Mike.
Hey, good afternoon, Bob and Katrina. Well, one person was killed, 4 people wounded when gunfire rang out in Chicago's Back of the Yards neighborhood on Tuesday as gun violence continues to plague the Windy City. Chicago police are blaming the recent spike in gangland violence on suspected gang leader Sergio Barron, a man whose brother was murdered last month. Police say just 4 days after Barron was released from federal custody in March, he was then picked up by police on a felony weapons charge, but shortly after that, he was released on a $1,000 cash bond. Chicago Police Superintendent David Brown is now calling on prosecutors to get Barron off the streets.
We are in conversations now with the U.S. Attorney's Office as well as State's Attorney's Office on, number one, trying to figure out how can we revoke his bond, get him back, this high-ranking gang member that's driving this violence because of retaliation for his brother's murder. Try to get him off the street.
2 other alleged gang members are being charged with assaulting police officers at the scene of Tuesday's shooting. One of them allegedly pushed an officer to the ground while punching another officer in the face. A second man allegedly tried to prevent officers from providing medical treatment to shooting victims. Katrina and Bod?
Michael, thank you very much.
Thank you. For more on the rise in crime, let's turn to Turning Point USA contributor and host of Can't Cancel Rob Smith podcast, Rob Smith. Hi, Rob.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Great to see you here, but let's just kind of put this in perspective. I mean, we're hearing about a rise in crime across the country, not just in the big cities. Of course, that's where a lot of the big headlines are coming from. But overall, what does this say about the administration's focus on crime? Biden saying, of course, we really need to be more serious about it, but those sound like just words, not actions.
Well, they sound like just words. And here's the thing. What the Biden administration says when it comes to supporting the police, when it comes to being anti-crime and stuff like that, it is so diametrically opposed to the rhetoric we've been hearing from the far left wing of the party over the past couple of years. Remember the anti-cop rhetoric, the BLM protests, all that stuff. And so the rise in crime that we're seeing is, I think, a direct result of what I like to call one of the hidden costs of the pandemic. And not just the pandemic, but also the lockdowns that came as a result of that. In a lot of the major cities, things just got a lot more dangerous. And when you pay people money to literally not work and people are not on the streets and you tell them to stay home, things just get much more dangerous. And when we talk about Chicago, in overall, it's a failure of leadership. So we have Lori Lightfoot in Chicago who wants to tweet about abortion and tweet about LGBTQ and whatever. Distracting from the fact that there are literally dozens of people getting shot on her streets every single weekend. It's outrageous.
Yeah.
You know, those who lived in the New York area during Giuliani, and even Bloomberg for that matter, Giuliani set the table, okay? The so-called broken window policy. Lock up vandals, or at least prosecute them to make sure they understand. You violate the law, you pay a price.
Right.
Along the way, that's gone away because, you know, people used to get thrown in jail for doing things. Now they're out on the street within hours and sometimes given incentives to get them to return to court.
How you know, actions don't seem to have consequences anymore, to Bob's point.
They don't. And you know what? We talked a little bit about, before we did the show, about how we connect this to the people who don't necessarily live in Chicago, New York, D.C., L.A., et cetera. I think that people, and there's a reason that they don't live in these places because the crime is exploding, but they have to make sure that the law enforcement and the leadership in their own cities and towns is supportive of police and is very anti-crime, or else this stuff will creep into those areas as well. Because this is not something that just happened overnight.
Right. Also, you know, Biden is seeking to kind of position himself now as being hard on crime, of course, as we go into the midterms. So let's check this out. Reports are also saying that President Biden is going to urge cities to spend COVID relief money on hiring more cops and preventing crime. I mean, you know, the timing is interesting, but then again, you get to the bottom line, spend more money.
Of course. I mean, that's their answer to everything is spend, spend, spend. And it's so funny that, you know, he talks about, he wants to spend more money on cops and all that stuff, when again, I have to go back to the far left progressive movement, which has talked about defunding the police for the past couple of years. Now, Joe Biden cannot divorce himself from the rhetoric of the movement that has has all of the energy in his party. It is just not working.
Yeah. Let's move on to another topic, because you're talking about all kinds of things about can't cancel Rob Smith.
Yes.
You used to be problematic, I guess.
I'm still problematic.
You're still problematic.
I'm still problematic, but they just can't
That's good to
cancel
hear. Good to hear.
Get your reaction to this new ad campaign showing, who is this for?
Calvin Klein.
Oh my goodness. This is a pregnant trans man, okay? A major talking point, of course, for Democrats, and one of the reasons, by the way, that the latest abortion laws don't even say the word woman, right? They say pregnant patient.
Oh, I've seen everything from pregnant person to gestators. Like the language is completely
Birthing
ridiculous.
people.
Birthing people.
Yes.
And so here's the
Gestators.
thing. This Calvin Klein ad campaign, it launches on Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Oh.
And it seems like everything with the far left transgender movement is all about erasing women. It's so funny that it's about erasing
I
women's
thought we were supposed to
spaces.
build up women.
Exactly.
Well, I think what's interesting to that point is also it's on Mother's Day, and Calvin Klein said in a statement, well, this is really about talking about, the new normal and families. So then, okay, so are you saying the traditional nuclear family now is no longer hip or cool, because
Like something
Calvin
wrong
Klein
with
is
that?
always trying to push the envelope
Yeah, they're
there.
trying to push the
So
envelope.
what are they not saying?
I think that you're absolutely right when you say that. Remember, these far left movements, and we talk about the BLM, and we talk about the far left LGBT, and we talk about all of this stuff, the destruction of the nuclear family is kind of like one of the goals, right? But even with this Calvin Klein thing, it's really funny. This is the first I'm seeing of it. I don't think it's made much of an impact, but I think that people are really getting turned off to a lot of this wokeness that's coming from the fashion industry, that's coming from entertainment, that's coming from the media, and that's probably why I haven't heard much about it.
Yeah, and in fact, somebody was saying, why don't people rise up and do something about this? And my argument was, it doesn't affect your life the way inflation does.
Yes.
But it is annoying. And what do you think the consequence is of a society where we're showing things like this and trying to change the conversation and be woke?
The thing about it is that I think that they have gone so far and gone so crazy that people are turning away from it and they're turning off of it. So I think about, I call myself an elder millennial myself, but I'm a millennial. An elder millennial.
It's like an oxymoron.
Yes, and I'm also like a millennial snowbird because I split my time between here and Florida. But I look at what the Zoomers are doing, and I do not think that Generation Z is this woke. I think Generation Z has seen this stuff being shoved down our throats for the past, 10 years, and now they're over it and they're moving. And I think in what I think is a more conservative leaning direction.
So you really think the pendulum's going to come back around
Absolutely.
here?
I've coined it. You heard it here first. We are moving into the post-woke era.
Post-woke.
Yeah, and I hope so, because my daughters are Zoomers, right? And you're right. They look at this stuff and they say, that's crazy.
Well,
That's
to be
ridiculous.
young is to rebel against whatever the mainstream narrative is.
That's a good
That
point.
is the mainstream narrative, and now they're like, "Oh, I don't want that." Let me just go, raise a family, have some babies, do what they're telling you.
Let's
not to.
keep it simple.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whatever they want to do, and
Right.
that's the point.
Yes.
Is not to force people to be something they're not.
Right.
Yeah.